Lysa Terkeurst is a best-selling author, sought-after speaker, wife and mum. Still, she knows something about rejection. In her latest book, Uninvited, she shares how you can take all those negative experiences and make them work for you. Lysa, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And as I introduced you, an author, a speaker, a mother, what on earth does Lysa know about rejection?
Well, unfortunately, I know a lot about rejection because oftentimes rejection comes in many forms. It doesn't just mean that a boyfriend or a spouse breaks your heart. It can mean little feelings of being left out, less than, feeling lonely. All of those hint at feelings of rejection. And oftentimes what we do is we travel to our past rejections and we pull that past pain into our present hurt, and it all becomes very magnified. You know, honestly, no matter when you've been rejected in your life, rejection has a way of stealing the best of who we are by reminding us the worst that's been said to us. And when that's true, I think we all, on some level, either are dealing with rejections of our past, trying to heal from a present day rejection, or we fear that an unexpected rejection is right around the corner.
So let me ask you, I mean, you describe very honestly some of your own experiences with your father leaving when you were young, etc. But how do I know what is really rejection, and what is someone who's being honest with me about the reality as they see it to try and help me?
Well, I think there's some core fears that we have to acknowledge when that it kind of feeds someone's propensity to knowing the depth of the rejection they may be facing. And those two core fears are the fear of being abandoned and then the fear of losing your identity. And if either one of those things are present, if that feeling of being completely abandoned by someone is present, the fear of losing your identity is present, then rejection is there. And that's definitely what happened with my father. And because that was such a big part of my childhood, many of those perceptions and certainly those two fears were carried into my adulthood. And so, you know, rejection is more than just a feeling. Rejection is something that can completely overshadow someone's life and their ability to make decisions.
Now, your book, Uninvited, it's helped many people, and there's quotes by tons of people about how it's helped them. But there's a chapter that tickled me. There's a lady at the gym who hates me.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that.
Well, that's a rather unfortunate title for a chapter, isn't it? But you know, that chapter is about perceived rejection. That's where, and I tell the story of me having this interaction with a woman at the gym where she was on the elliptical beside me, and she's very toned and very fit, and I wasn't feeling any of those words. I was feeling a bit like a marshmallow in a t-shirt one day. And so I decided, for the sake of every other woman who's ever felt like a marshmallow in a t-shirt at the gym beside all the other skinny women, I decided to try to out-elliptical her. And and things didn't go so well, and she got aggravated with me. And I perceived that the reason she got off her elliptical and walked away was because that was a rejection of her to me, and that she couldn't stand being beside me. And then every time I interacted with her at the gym, I looked at her through the lens of, oh, there's the woman at the gym who hates me. And then one day I was coming out of the bathroom and she was going into the bathroom, and we had this encounter, and she smiled at me. And it wasn't like, hey, I'm about to whip your tail on the gym floor. It wasn't that. It was more of a like, hey, haven't I seen you before? And what God revealed to me was that all that rejection I had been assigning her really was just perceptions on my part. And I was assigning conversations to her that she never had, and I was assigning a rejection that she never gave me. And I think we all do that to some extent.
You're so right, because the conversations we have in our head, I certainly know a couple of friends of mine, we've talked about this, where you think, next time he or she says that, I'm going to say this and that and that, and it's something that you totally just imagined. Now we could talk so much more about that, but let me skip to the part about God and how you introduce this God thing that's able to help us through all this pain and make sense, not only make sense of what we've been through, but bring us out the other side.
Well, I think in our human relationships, there is this overarching question, like, is this person's love, is it a security blanket, certain and will be there for my future? Or is this person's love more like a question mark? Like I could do something where their love would no longer be present for me. And I think because we have that kind of transactional relationship with other people, sometimes we get the feeling that God's love is based on how we are doing or how we're not doing, and that God's love actually rises and falls on our performance. But what I write about in Uninvited is there is a love that can never be shaken, taken, tarnished, or diminished, and that is God's love. And the reality with God's love, it's very different than human love, because God's love isn't based on us. It's simply placed on us, and it's the place from which we should live, and that is loved. And I think if people can get that, then their foundation feels so much more certain, because God's love is just that certain.
Lysa, our time is almost up, but I want to ask you, as I flicked through the book, one of the things that jumped out at me is how we perceive other people when they're acting out as we see it. It could just be that they're acting out their pain. For someone who has in their life someone they don't understand, they're thinking, why do they just keep behaving crazy? Why are they behaving like that? How can we begin the journey to, one, understanding the person and then helping them to healing?
Well, I would say, remember this phrase: hurt people, but healed people heal people. And so I think one of the best things to do for that person is find one common insecurity and speak to that person and say, you know what? Me too. Me too. I sometimes feel that way too. Now, what do we need to do about it? And hey, I think one of the best things you could do is ask that person if they'd be willing to read Uninvited with you. And in the back of the book, there's an assessment test that you guys could take together that will help create some more self-awareness, both for that person as well as yourself.
Lysa, thank you so much for writing the book Uninvited and giving us more than something to read, but a tool to work with to better our lives. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you.